Maybe.
Come off it. 3rd and goal from the 10. 5 seconds left. Don't react.
What is up, everybody? This is bigz. This is Grindberg. This is Schultzy. We are the PAT show on Fantasy Sports Advice Network every Thursday night, coming to you live after the game.
No, man.
At the same time as the game.
His toe's on the line.
I think his toe is on the line. We are in the middle of play action right now. We are in instant replay. Isaiah Likely, his foot potentially is on the line.
It's on the line.
It could be a touchdown to tie the game. It could be overtime. It could be nothing. We are waiting on the call right now from the booth. We are waiting anxiously. Bigz, where are you right now?
I'm hanging out poolside at the Fig Garden Country Club in Fresno, California. That's right. I said Fresno. There are people in Fresno. It's still about 102 degrees at 9 o'clock at night. I'm sitting here at a little reception shindig party thing for my partner's cousin who just got a federal judgeship. And so he got sworn in today as a district court judge in the state of California. I put on a grown-up shirt and everything. I was wearing a tie earlier when I was talking to Grindberg. And I tried to pick a cool spot for the podcast, and there's a pool. So I'm just lounging here on my phone. All my camera equipment is back at the hotel, and can't use it because the Wi-Fi at the hotel is garbage. So I'm watching my battery life on my phone slowly slip down and eating some tacos from the taco bar.
What a game, folks. Okay, Schultzy, let's get this intro going so we can talk about this game.
Welcome to Fantasy Forecast Points After Thursday. I'm bigz. He's Grindberg. In the middle, we got Schultzy. Just hanging out, fellas. How'd that game go? I wasn't watching very closely.
It was awesome.
Exciting or anything?
It was great.
Back, man.
We are so back. What a way to start the year, folks. We had a juggernaut of a game, back and forth action. We had some tight defensive plays. We had some good defensive line battles. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes put on a showcase all night long, back and forth. Some big performances. Go ahead, Bigz.
I had my recommendation for waivers by Isaiah Likely. How did that play out?
Isaiah Likely was
pretty bad. His toe was out and he lost in the game, so not good.
Right, but what was his line? What did he do in fantasy after I told everybody to pick him up off waivers?
Well,
9 for 110 and a touchdown.
And it would have been 2 touchdowns, but
it's tight end 1 this week, huh?
Excellent news, and it was an inch out. We have some 1 freaking inch away from having a monster game on top of what was already a monster game from Isaiah Likely. 9 receptions, 111 yards, and a touchdown. We saw some big plays also on the ground from Lamar Jackson. He went for 122 yards on the ground, throwing for 273 and a touchdown. Impressive game there. We saw Zay Flowers hit probably close to, 10 to 15 targets right off the line. Wasn't much for yardage, but pretty interesting to see that dynamic between Likely and the lack of Mark Andrews' involvement, Biggs. What are your thoughts on that initially? Like you said you had an instinct that Isaiah Likely was going to be the guy headed into this game. Why do you think they didn't use Mark Andrews as much?
Because he hasn't been practicing. He was out for most of the preseason with after his car crash. And I feel like they got Isaiah Likely heavily involved in the offensive attack and utilized it.
Yeah. Okay. And they had a lot of guys were on Rashad Bateman headed into this season. They tried to use him on a couple deep shots. He was only he was targeted 5 times. He came down with 2 catches, 53 yards. Definitely made an impact down the stretch there. What are your thoughts on him? I mean, you and I aren't very high on Rashad Bateman, but a lot of the guys out there are. So what are your initial thoughts on that situation? Is Isaiah Likely going to be the secondary option outside of Zay Flowers in this offense moving forward, do you think? Or is that just an anomaly?
No. Coach that Likely Mark a little more role coming in, and we knew that Zay Flowers was going to be the primary wide receiver. The first thing was light this week with Rashad Bateman being an elite separator. Everything didn't really.
Biggs has had some technical difficulties right now on the stream, so we're going to bring Schultzy in here to kind of commentate. Appreciate you trying there, Biggs, but if your line isn't super secure, maybe jump back on when it is here. But yeah, Schultzy, Isaiah Likely, big target in this game. Another aspect in the Ravens game that maybe was a little unexpected was the arrival of Justice Hill. What are your thoughts on Hill? A lot of people had a lot of shares of Derrick Henry thinking he was going to dominate this backfield. Should people be nervous about the usage of Derrick Henry moving forward? I think they should be. I think that the Ravens have kind of set their hand out here. They're going to use Derrick Henry first down, goal line work, and I think that they're going to need a pass catching back. And maybe once Keaton Mitchell returns from his injury, he's going to play more of a role. You're back?
That was garbage.
Oh, your line was garbage.
Back.
Good stuff. Okay, Biggs is back, and
not 4Gs.
Okay. Yeah, you're
whatever you're saying, I agree with.
Cool. Okay, so the next part of this is let's dissect the Chiefs game here a bit. Okay, we had a big performance from Xavier Worthy. Looks like he's the real deal in this Chiefs offense. They only used him seldomly. They had him used in the backfield a bit. He had that one rushing touchdown and then that broken coverage play, which had resulted in a touchdown. So Schultz, I'm going to start with you. What are your initial thoughts on Xavier Worthy? He wasn't used a huge amount, but what's your thoughts on him now moving forward? Potentially Marquise Brown playing next week could be a factor as well. So his usage moving forward, obviously has that talent and that lightning speed. What are your thoughts on Xavier Worthy headed into week 2 and after this monster week?
Honestly, it's kind of what I expected out of him. We never thought the target volume was going to be huge. It was going to be stuff drawn up for him. And with the way Andy Reid does things, you don't know when he's going to do it, and he's going to hit you at the right time with it. And that's what happened tonight.
Yeah, exactly. And now another guy that had a really big game, that was, Rashee Rice. I think his line was 7 for 103. That line, that line was pretty good line. They were using him off the line in those design run plays, but a lot of those slant plays turned into some big gains. What are your thoughts on Rashee Rice? We know he's solidified now in this role with the Chiefs. I think they're going to use him quite a bit moving forward. So let's figure that out. What do you think Rashee Rice's usage is going to be moving forward?
Well, I mean, isn't this exactly just an extension of where they left off with him? I mean, yeah. So I'm not surprised at all. This, like, they're going to feed this dude. I am a little surprised at how heavily it was him over Kelce. But no, Rice, this dude's going to feast all year.
And then another situation there because of the Kelce usage as well is Noah Gray signed that contract today. They're invested in him for 3 more years. I wasn't sold on him coming into this season. They brought in some guys, Jared Wiley, Irv Smith Jr., and now both these top tier tight ends. Should we be worried about them? Kelce, Andrews, their usage was pretty rough. Dynasty World pipes in and says that as well. Gotta shock some alarms here. A lot of people had Kelce moving into this year as a tight end 1 again, and there's a lot of top heavy tight ends in the league right now. Mark Andrews being one of them, but his usage was very, very striking. So obviously with that injury, maybe a slow start for Kelce. They try to, keep him fresh for the long haul. That might be a situation that the Chiefs are going to be entertaining. But out of the gate, both these guys weren't used like we thought they were going to get used. What are your thoughts on that moving forward?
I'm not concerned yet at all. I mean, until we get more of a sample of this being a real pattern, especially with Kelce. Like, I just don't see this being a real problem long term. Like, Andrews gives you a little bit more of a concern only because likely, stepped in and caught 9 passes. It's not like Noah Gray was eating volume away. He got a couple targets, but a little more concerning for Andrews, but overall, I'm not concerned. You always got to remember that week 1 is just really weird. Like, a lot of weird stuff happens in week 1. A couple years ago, Sammy Watkins got 3 touchdowns in week 1, and then disappeared. So wait and see.
Okay, we got a question here that I'll answer. Andrews owners may panic. Worth trying to make a trade for him. The worst thing I would say you could do as any sort of fantasy manager is, reacting right away, especially to bad games. And a guy like Mark Andrews, his price might be low now because of this game, and you might not get the full value for him because of that. And like bigz said when his connection wasn't so bad, he's a guy that's coming off an accident that just happened, didn't play much in the preseason, coming off an injury last year where he had some time to get back into the lineup, but clearly wasn't 100% in the playoffs either. So I could see the Ravens taking some time with him, given a guy like Likely who could definitely fill in for Andrews, but they kind of play a different position now. And Likely looks like the guy that's going to be taking some of those hitch passes and those intermediate routes away from Mark Andrews. So I wouldn't be panicking if I was a manager for Mark Andrews. I wouldn't be trying to sell him just yet, but I would also try and have another option in there until he gets that momentum back, because he has that pedigree. He's not far removed from a top tier tight end finish. Injuries and getting back into action is going to be an important part for his situation. What are your thoughts on that, Schultzy?
No, he was saying, if someone else has Andrews and is panicking, would you try and trade for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Always.
I think you indirectly answered the question by talking about how, he's still, elite dude. He's working his way back. So, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Any other big storylines from this game? I know there was a lot of defensive battles back in front. Leo Chenal looked awesome. Chris Jones was all over the place. A couple of key stops by the Ravens defense. We knew this. Both these defenses would be formidable. Is there anything else that we needed to touch base on? We touched base on the Xavier Worthy game. Can we move on to, some other pressing issues like some start and sits and maybe some news recap?
Okay, so the only thing I've got here is Baltimore interior line was pretty bad, and we're giving up a lot of pressure, causing Lamar to just scramble for his life. If that's a trend that keeps up, Lamar is going to be even more valuable than we thought.
Absolutely, especially with the way he ran today. They were using Derrick Henry more or less as a decoy a lot of the time too. And when it was a run option, a lot of the time, Lamar Jackson was taking it and running with it. So I think this could be, if Lamar Jackson could stay healthy, if this is the route that they're going, this could be another MVP style season for Lamar Jackson. And maybe not every game he's going to have to run like he did because they're going to be in a little bit better game scripts in a lot of these games that they're going to be playing some lesser opponents. But, going into Arrowhead, first game of the year against the Super Bowl champs is never going to be an easy feat. And especially with that crowd noise, that really helped them on a lot of plays too there. So good analysis there. Let's hear about our website there,
Mike,
Schultz. Yo,
I would say, do you if you wanted to talk about the game some more, I think I know somewhere you could do that.
Where can we do that, man?
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
Yeah, so folks, it's a really great platform. It's where you can find like-minded people without the garbage of, social media that you find with ads or trolls or, bots and all that kind of stuff. So this is where we go to entertain ourselves. If you got any start and sit questions, you have great creators in there answering them, just like on our live streams, and get in there. It's a great place to be. One more comment here before we move on to some news. So it's obvious Monken never had a great running back before, and hopefully, moving forward, they could figure out how to use Derrick Henry a little bit more effectively. They might have to come up with some more unique ways of getting them the ball without masking it so obviously up the middle.
Well, I think one thing we need to remember here is I don't think the Justice Hill usage is going to be sustainable. I think they probably were looking at this game from an offensive standpoint of they need to, kind of pedal to the metal this with the Chiefs. I don't think they're going to have that thought all the time, especially when they're playing lesser opponents and they can just pound them away.
Exactly. It was mostly game strip dependent really here, I think. And when push comes to the shove in those games where the Ravens are up, I think they're going to be using Derrick Henry as the battering ram that he is. And he still scored a touchdown and proved his worth, even though it wasn't like an RB1 finish maybe this week, but it's still RB2 numbers, and it's still going to, not kill you in your fantasy league this week. So, okay, so let's move on to some news, folks. And the first news bit I'm going to talk about is let's talk about the San Paulo Primer. We're going to talk about the game tomorrow and the Packers versus the Eagles in the international showdown as the NFL season kicks off. Its inaugural international game in San Paulo, Brazil. Fantasy football gamers have been thrilling for this matchup to look forward to. The Green Bay Packers will face off against the Eagles in a Friday night clash that promises to deliver plenty of excitement and fantasy relevant action. So I'm going to give you all a comprehensive outlook on this highly anticipated game. Jordan Love, after a stellar finish to 2023 where he threw for over 2,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, and only 1 interception in the final 8 games, Love is set to continue his upward trajectory. His impressive playoff performance further cemented his status as a rising star. With a revamped receiving core and the addition of Josh Jacobs, Love is poised to thrive. Expect him to be a strong fantasy option, particularly in 2-quarterback and deep leagues. Josh Jacobs, the addition of him brings a new dynamic to the Packers offense, known for his explosive rushing ability and solid receiving skills. Jacobs helps balance the Green Bay's attack. The prop line for Jacobs is set at 65 yards and 15 receiving yards for his debut, highlighting high expectations for his impact. He's a strong RB2 with high RB1 upside, especially in PPR leagues this week against the Eagles. The receivers, the Green Bay Packers receiving core is led by talented young players. And, we got to see how that benefits Jordan Love this year. They have some veterans too, but the young guys I'm looking at and I'm keeping my eye on, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and obviously Dontavian Wicks. They're all going to play some snaps here, but we got to look for is how Christian Watson this year is going to adapt. And I'm looking for big things. Maybe we'll see that come to fruition if he can stay healthy. I love this Green Bay matchup, and I'm thinking this is going to be a very explosive game. Now, moving on to the Eagles. Hurts is expected to rebound from last season in a key player for the Eagles. They have an offensive line that is revamped. The running game now is also revamped. Saquon Barkley is now there. He should be back to his dual threat, but we got to keep in mind that, he's still 1 year removed from Shane Steichen and his passing metrics went down last year. Jason Kelce is now retired, so maybe that tush push might not be as effective. So I'm not looking for Hurts to be as prolific. He's still going to be a top 5 quarterback in my eyes, but I think, he relies a lot on the rushing attack and rushing touchdowns. So I think that maybe Barkley might eat into that and they might not be as effective. But the receiving group, established stars, emerging talents will benefit from an improved quarterback play if Hurts can get back on track and start throwing the ball downfield a little bit more. People are high on Kellen Moore's addition there. I'm not so much. I don't like Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator for what he does for quarterbacks. I saw, Dak Prescott. I saw Justin Herbert have not so great seasons under Kellen Moore's tutelage. So I don't think he's going to be that great. So, overall, I think this matchup's going to really, depict how the season's going to start for both these teams. If you were to ask me who's going to win this game right out of the bat, I would say with my heart, the Green Bay Packers are going to win this one. Schultzy, what are your thoughts on this matchup? Who do you got in this game? Anything to add to what I said about the preview here?
I'm going to take the Packers as well, man. I think this offense is just going to be humming. Like that, we saw it last year. LaFleur is a whiz. He's right with the Shanny tree, the McVay guys. Like LaFleur he's the real deal. He's got Jordan Love playing great. That group of receivers is so deep. Give me the Packers, man.
Yeah, me too. I think the Packers are going to surprise this year. I remember on our Super Bowl prediction show last week, I think it was on this show, actually, the Points After Thursday I had, and I think you did as well. We both had the Packers in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. So let's see if they both those teams start out with a win, the Chiefs and Packers in the first 2 games of the season. Now let's move on to some injury news. Kyle Pitts showed up on the injury slate the other day. So we're going to have to monitor that injury. Currently, he's dealing with a hamstring injury that led us to his limited participation in practice yesterday. According to Raheem Morris, head coach, the news comes as a concern for fantasy gamers who have been eagerly anticipating Pitts' performance in the upcoming NFL season. Morris indicated that while Pitts will be restricted in practice, the injury has not severely impacted his ability to perform. The offseason, there has been a surge of optimism for the Falcons' offensive weapons, including Pitts, wide receiver Drake London, and former rookie running back Bijan Robinson. This excitement is fueled by the departure of former head coach Arthur Smith. We know with the arrival of Kirk Cousins, there's a lot of optimism here, but I'm going to urge people to proceed with caution with their Atlanta Falcons earlier in the season here. I think it's going to take some time for them to adjust to their new quarterback. We don't know how Kirk Cousins has actually healed up from his injury, and being of age of where he's at, sometimes these injuries take a little bit longer to heal from, and coming into a new offense, yes, he has the weapons. It might just take him a little bit longer to get going. So maybe a slower start for the Falcons in 2024, but I'm still very optimistic about their pass catchers. What about you, Schultzy? Are you high on these Falcons like a large majority of the fantasy population?
Yeah, I think expecting a little bit of a slow start is like a pretty reasonable expectation. I don't think I'm as high as the community in general, but I think they'll be fine. The Kyle Pitts thing gives me a little concern, just to randomly pop up with a hamstring injury.
Yeah,
that's a little worrisome to me. And then for them to just be like, he's 100%, but he's on the injury report, but he's also 100%. Yeah, and it's a hamstring. I don't know. That's a little sticky to me.
Yeah, and hamstrings with tight ends, we know that that isn't a good injury to have. If you're a tight end, you rely a lot on that muscle. So, yeah, it's something to monitor, folks, especially those that are optimistic about him early on in the season. Now, another injury that just popped up today, and it wasn't on our show sheet, Schultzy, but it came through later on, and that was we had Russell Wilson show up with a calf injury, limited in practice, and just 3 days remaining before the Steelers' home opener or season opener. Russell Wilson is facing that troubling setback. The timing of this development is particularly crucial for fantasy football gamers, given the preseason competition Wilson faced from the backup quarterback Justin Fields, acquired from the Bears in the offseason. He had pushed Wilson hard for that starting job, despite eventually earning the role and receiving confidence from the Steelers coaching staff and teammates. But Fields remains a strong contender should Wilson's calf issue persist. We're all just salivating on the idea of Justin Fields starting some football games as a fantasy manager. This is, it would be awesome to see already. Corey's coming in right now and saying this is a transition to Fields already. It could be actually. And we know that Russell Wilson isn't a fan favorite in a lot of the locker rooms he's in. So it may not take long for Mike Tomlin, especially if this calf injury does persist, that Russell Wilson might, be on the bench sooner than later. And those that have been patient, that snagged Justin Fields late in drafts or have kept them in their dynasty rosters, hopefully that those that have done that can regain some of their investment. What are your thoughts on that ever-evolving situation in Pittsburgh?
Who the hell knows, man? It's just how it's been since both these guys got there, right? I mean, like, it's so back and forth. I was of the thought that if you're going to invest, go for Fields just because of the upside and the value. So yeah, let's get Fields on there just for for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so we have a question here from one of our viewers here. They wants to know which Green Bay Packer wide receiver we should be starting tomorrow or this weekend in the game. And, got a couple guys on the radar here. I think, Jaden Reed is always a safe option, playing that slot position. He's going to be a safety blanket for Jordan Love in most cases, but in a high scoring game, which I think this game is going to be, I think you can take a shot for sure. And especially if you drafted Christian Watson, I think earlier in the season when he's going to be healthy, if he's on the field, he's a difference maker, and I think that with a high scoring game, you could easily start both those guys with some confidence. Depending on who you're up against, like if you got any guys that you're contemplating, any of those guys with, I'd be happy to answer that question too. But yeah, I would say confidently, Jayden Reed and Christian Watson, I would be starting tomorrow. Schultzy, you got anything to add?
No, I think that's pretty fair.
If you needed to start one or the other, if you want a ceiling play, go with Christian Watson because he's got that touchdown upside, that big playability. If you need a floor play, somebody that you just want to get a floor, 6 receptions, 70 yards, and potentially more, then I would go with a Jayden Reed type scenario. What are your thoughts on that one, Schultzy?
Yeah, once again, I think you nailed it. If you're just swinging for the fences, Watson could go out there and he could catch 2 bombs for touchdowns and blow you up for the week as a winner. But if you want someone that's just going to go be a steady Eddie, but also has some upside, Jayden Reed's your guy.
Okay, thanks, Brent, for the question. If you got any more, just feel free to add them to the comments, folks, and we'll attack them as we go here. So another story, folks, that is ever evolving, and it's got a lot of implications in fantasy football, and that is the Jamar Chase contract drama. As the Bengals prepare for their Week 1 clash against the Patriots, they could be without Jamar Chase. He has practice in, spurts this week. The season opener is just a couple days away, and we're wondering if that star receiver will be available. Chase's holdout stems from his desire to have that long-term contract extension, very similar to the likes of Justin Jefferson that just signed his contract, or CeeDee Lamb. He wants to be in that range, which he should be, earning in that, So if Chase remains sidelined or limited in Week 1, that could significantly impact the Bengals offense and elevate the fantasy receivers. I talked about it in length earlier today, but T. Higgins, Andre, Josevas, these guys are going to see increased targets. Josevitz, it could be the guy that is the sleeper this week if Chase doesn't, show up. He's making headlines this offseason. He's got good size, good speed. He's running with the starters and can be a sneaky play this week. He caught 15 passes last year for 4 and scored 4 times, so he can be a threat in the red zone. So the Bengals are set with that decision to extend Chase. It's still pending. We talked about that earlier with Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. They're making over $30 million, and Chase just wants to be in line with that. He wants to be probably paid a little bit more, and we'll see what happens. As of now, the Bengals head coach, Zach Taylor, has suggested that Chase status for Week 1 is still uncertain, describing the situation as day-to-day. This indicates a new deal to be finalized at any moment, but we're not holding our breath at this point. What are we doing if you don't have Jamar Chase in your lineup? That's a pretty bad way to go to start the year, right?
I mean, yeah, and you can't really do much about it. You already drafted. You got to roll the dice with your bench, and that's about all you can do.
Now, we got another question up here, and it's regarding the Cincinnati Bengals backfield and wondering who to start. Zach Moss, Chase Brown. I've been a big Chase Brown truther all off season, so I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I've been talking up Chase Brown all off season. I think, he showed promise last year, taking over that backfield when Joe Mixon was kind of on the downslope last year. His efficiency metrics are there. And I think that head coach Zach Taylor really likes Chase Brown. So I think he's going to have the lion's share to start the year. And, he could be leading that backfield 60-40, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I would be looking for the guy with the more upside in the passing game, and Chase Brown's the guy for me. But that I could be wrong. Schultzy, you got anything to add to that? Are you on Chase Brown, or you would prefer Zach Moss this week in that matchup against the Patriots?
I'm going to take Zach Moss, especially this weekend in a game I think they're going to control. And he's the listed starter on the depth chart, and that matters when it's the week 1 depth chart. It's not a stupid preseason one, and so that does matter. And they're talking about getting Brown involved into punt kick returns, one of the two. So to me, it's spelling like Moss is getting
Moss
the work.
is going to get the work. Yeah, he might get the work. I'm a little bit more optimistic too about Chase Brown and just the situation. So I might be wrong this week, but I'm going to roll the dice there. I mean, I wouldn't like that situation anyhow if I have Zach Moss and I have to make that call. Schultzy, what about that Jags versus Dolphins game? Let's get your opinion on that one. We got a question about the Jags Dolphins game. It's going to be an interesting one. There's a lot of optimism in Jaguars camp. They look good. They brought in a couple speedsters and Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis. Let's take a look. What are your thoughts on it?
This is going to be a fun one. It could be a shootout. I think the Jags are going to pull it off, to be honest, not just because I'm a homer, but look, the defensive line is going to be insane with Josh Hines, Allen, Trayvon Walker, Eric Armstead. Then they brought in Ryan Nielsen as their defensive coordinator, who has made Atlanta like a middle of the pack defense last few years with like no talent. And the Dolphins offensive line is a mess right now. So I think the Jags are going to be able to put some pressure on Tua and affect him. But on the flip side, it looks like this Jags offense is going to be humming right out of the gate with Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis, mainly Brian Thomas. The speed is for real, and you're seeing defenses already scared of it. It's just going to ripple effect down the offense. I'm going to go with the Jags.
Cool, man. Good stuff. Okay. We're going to do one last segment before it's already pretty late in a lot of the country here, and we weren't expecting such a late night of a delayed start. So I'm going to give y'all one start, one sit of the week for myself, and then we'll end this show off, and we'll get back to you next week and talk about some of the other shows we got online for y'all as we represent the fantasy forecast on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. So my first and only start of the week that I'm going to talk to you about tonight, and that's Jerome Ford of the Cleveland Browns. I think he's a standout start for your lineup. He's set to face off a Dallas Cowboy team that, has some issues up front. And with Nick Chubb's absence, that means Ford will take over the Browns starting running back. Last season, he showed promise. He averaged 15 touches a game for almost 67 yards. When he was the starter, his ability to handle a larger workload in Chubb's absence makes him a strong candidate for your fantasy lineups, especially given the Cowboys' defensive struggles against the run. With Chubb out, Ford will be the focal point of the Browns' ground game, giving him ample opportunity to produce valuable fantasy points. Despite some skepticism about Ford's long-term value, his immediate prospects are promising. I'm liking his situation right now, especially without anybody really challenging him for snaps outside of Pierre Strong. They recently cut Deonta Foreman, so it just looks like the wheels are up for Jerome Ford to start this year as the primary back in that lineup. So his excellent start to week 1 with a good matchup. He's leading the Browns backfield, so I just think that all leads to good fantasy situation. He's got great substantial upside. If you're looking for a solid running back too, with immediate impact, with RB1 potential, look at Jerome Ford in your lineup this week. Schultzy, do you like Ford's matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good matchup. He's going to get a ton of volume. I love it.
Okay, and then I'm going to talk to you guys about a sit of the week, and that is Brock Purdy. I know, Brock Purdy, he had a great 2023 where he was a candidate. He finished runner-up for the MVP and led the 49ers to that Super Bowl appearance, but the 49ers will face a tough New York Jets defense that poses several challenges for Purdy. The offense has been in full flux leading up to this season opener with top offensive players like Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams. They were holding out, it casting doubts about their availability in week 1. But fortunately, both Ayuk and Williams have recently finalized their contracts and will be on the field, but the holdouts might have left them rusty. Williams' protection of Purdy's blind side is crucial, and any lingering issues could impact Purdy's performance. Compounding the issue is the Jets secondary is one of the most formidable in the league. They allowed the 3rd lowest average passing yards per game last season, which is a major concern for Purdy. Even with his impressive track record, including leading the NFL in passer rating and breaking franchise records in passing yards, he could struggle against a tough defense. The lack of consistent protection and challenging opponent make it likely Purdy will not perform at his usual high level. So I'm going to sit him on my bench this week. Okay. So let's get one last question here from Brent Bradford before we, get into the evening and let everybody go. So we've got a question. Jeudy getting a lot of camp hype. You buying in or no? Debating between Cooks or Jeudy to start. Funny, I have both. I wouldn't want to be in that position to have to start either of them at this stage of the year. So hopefully this is a deep, deep league with a lot of players and deep benches. But to me, I'm worried about, Deshaun Watson's injury or, potential, him not practicing much, and Jeudy had a lot of hype going into last year. All the metrics are there. There's always hype around Jerry Jeudy. I've been bitten before with him. So, Brandon Cooks is probably the start for me there. He's going to probably float in as Dallas Cowboys' 2nd or 3rd option in that lineup in a pass heavy offense. And, they're going to be playing a Cleveland Browns team as well that, it could be a shootout. It could not be. So I'm just going to go with a safer bet and a guy that's been in the offense a bit longer. And I'd roll the dice on a guy that I've seen perform in an offense rather than a guy that is, getting camp hype. And we're not even sure if this quarterback is all there yet. So that would be my suggestion there. What are your thoughts on Jerry Jeudy and Brandon Cooks there, Schultzy?
To be honest, I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
It
could be.
I don't think you're going to make the right decision. You know what I mean? It's one of those ones, it could go either way. I don't know, pull a straw or something.
One might hit the end zone or something like that. But yeah. Sorry, we couldn't help you up too much there, but I would go with my instinct and just say if you really had to make a decision, it would be somebody that's been in the offense already a bit longer, and maybe after this week there'll be a little bit more clarity on that. So, yeah, that is PAT, Points After Thursday, for the first week of the regular season. And we're going to be here every Thursday after the game. We'll try and start right prompt as the game ends and, be with y'all for 45 minutes to an hour, recapping the game, answering the questions. Bigz will be on a better stream next week. We'll be back at home. So things will be a little bit more normal. And Schultzy will always be here in the background, helping out, jumping in whenever is needed. And be sure to find us on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. We have 3 shows running every week. The Fantasy Forecast. You're going to catch our start and sits running every Friday morning. You're going to catch our injury news update with physical sports therapist Marcus Gailey, who is going to be giving you the insights every week on the injuries of the NFL. And he does this every day for a living. He's a sports therapeutic, physical therapist. So the guy sees injuries and he rehabilitates sports injuries every day. So he's going to be an asset to us. And then we're going to run our waiver wire show on Tuesday mornings as well, plus the PAT Live. And Schultzy is going to have a Monday night show, and Bigz will be doing the Sunday morning start and sits before the gang of Spilled Copy comes on. So a lot going on our network, a lot going on the forecast, and hopefully this weekend is packed with a lot of great games, some excellent football, and you can find me at FF Canuck 99 on the X machine. Schultzy, where can they find you?
Yeah, go find me at Schultzy, SCHU1TZY.
And you can find bigz at Big Boned FFB on X as well. So until next time, everybody, we hope you win.
We hope you win.